9 o'clock, so we'll start.
Okay.
And it's very nice to see that there's so many people here, because this is our first event with this many participants. Well, we would like to welcome you from the Stadstuin. My name is Charlotte Helmer. Now, the most important bit of my introduction is the speaker of this month's theme, transit. And the man who can tell us all about that is about being in transit. He's born in Spain, worked as a graphic designer, and then he moved to Amsterdam, lived there for 20 years, worked as an art director. And then 7 years ago, he moved to Japan, and now he's an illustrator, or I think he prefers to call it a drawer. He's represented by Handsome Frank, an illustration agency, and he's got big clients in like the New York Times and Wired UK, and for the Dutchies. You can also see him, I think, every week in the Volkskrant magazine. I would like to give him a warm and welcome applause in front of your screen. And then, well, Luis Mendo is our guest, and I'm very pleased that you are here and are willing to, well, talk about your life in transit.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Charlotte. Welcome everyone. I'm really flattered that everyone wanted to come to see me. I hope I have something to say. I was tweeting about this, and I said, well, we'll talk about transit and about traffic lights. So I will have to say something about traffic lights in a certain moment. So I see some of you know me. I've seen some faces that I already know. So thank you for coming. And for the ones that don't know me, because this is about transit, I thought, what can I say? I mean, yes, I've been all my life in transit. So the best I can do is to do a little recap of my life, which is terrible because I hate to talk about myself. And I normally use slides, images and work and drawings and in all my talks. So for me, it's very weird to not have any slides. But I wanted to do it like as, naked and honest as possible. So I will go through my life, and you will see all the steps I've gone through, and hopefully, I hope that someone, I don't know, gets inspired or learns something from it. That's the idea. Can you all hear me well, by the way? This is so weird that you don't have any feedback. Everything okay? Yeah, good. Okay. I have a little list because otherwise I will forget stuff. I was born in Salamanca, which is a small town in Spain. It's like, 2 hours from Madrid, and it's a nice town, small, like, if Cambridge in England, it could be something like that. It's a small town with lots of students because there is an old university, and becoming a grown up there was interesting because you had so much culture and people coming from outside, but the culture that was promoted in the city was very much the old culture, like always looking back and look at all these professors that studied here and taught here in this university. So for me, it was like a kind of an ambition to get out of Salamanca, and eventually I did. I went to Madrid, and before going to Madrid, I needed some money, so I became a waiter in the Spanish coast and waiting tables in a terrace. There was 40 tables with 4 chairs per table. Can you imagine how many Coca-Colas and sandwiches I had to serve every day? And I want to mention this because it's very important that for me it was kind of a school. Coming from a small town and all of a sudden going to the coast and being a waiter, it taught me a lot about talking to people, getting to know clients, knowing what they wanted, and being able to switch in my head all the different orders. And it was like a huge coming of age for me. And it taught me a lot about people. And that has been a constant throughout my life later on. I wanted to mention that. I think that's important. So I went to Madrid and I studied graphic design in Madrid. And that was, again, a coming of age because, you come from a small town and you go to a big city and all of a sudden you get to know people that you only read about in the media, but then suddenly they become your friends. So I became friends with people that will become famous eventually years later. Alex de la Iglesia, Santiago Segura, people that, in Spain are now something, became something. And we were, it was like the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. I'm a very old person, by the way. And all those people will become what is the new current of culture later on. Not all these people, some of them. And I'm so happy that I was able to be there. Finished Madrid. I had to do 1 year project for my end of my university, my art school. And I thought, okay, I can go back to Salamanca, to my home, to my mom, and stay there and do the project, or I can go somewhere else. And I decided to go to Holland because back then I had a Dutch girlfriend. And I went to the north of Holland, to Groningen. And again, was a new step, a new step on my life, because all of a sudden I had a different language, of course, but the whole art education in Holland was so different from the Spanish one. So in Spain, I had done 5 years, I think. It was very much applied arts, while as in Holland it was very conceptual, and I had to think much more. It was all more typography based, and I learned a lot about design and about designing with your head rather than just with your hands. That was that made a big dent in my thinking and in my designing, of course. And then after 1 year in Groningen, I went back to Spain. I went to Barcelona. Barcelona, and again, if you know a little bit of Spain, they say they are a different. Some of the people from Barcelona think they are a different country, and that's how I felt. I felt much more a foreigner in Barcelona than I would feel in Holland. So it was again a new experience. As it happens, Barcelona had the best design at the moment in Spain, and it was a good time to be there. It was after the Olympics, so there was a big wave of designers that had been populating the media and culture with the designs, and I learned from them. I made some friends there too, which was really interesting and great. But then after 2 years of Barcelona, I thought I can better go back to Holland, where I was a foreigner already. Now I'm being a foreigner in my own country. So let's go back to Holland. So I went again, and I started a career in Amsterdam. And the interesting thing is that I started as a graphic designer, but I had made some experience as an editorial designer, so making newspapers and magazines in Barcelona. So I used that to start at Lava. Lava is a design studio. They were mainly known for making magazines, and I started as a junior. I came with a portfolio showing, some newspaper and magazines I had done for South America and for Spain, and they hired me immediately because I was so lucky that I applied on the day or the week where somebody had left. I was very lucky to get a job there as a junior, and I grew very quickly. At the end, I was a creative director at Lava. But after, I think it was 8 years or something, I decided that I had to start my own shop. And again, that was another change. You're so used to go to an office with 15 people, and you're a creative director, but still it's all a team effort. And I was mainly responsible for business outside the office, and not so much leading people. I'm not so good at that. But starting my own company was a different story again. And that transition made me learn how to deal with, not only deal with clients and sell the design, but also, do the administration, and you have to send invoices, and um, also do the negotiating of estimates and so on. So it's kind of hard. And I worked really, really hard for a few years with my own office. I had a beautiful office in the center of Amsterdam, which I share with friends. And it was a great, great experience. But after a few years, I was really burned out and feeling tired. And then my father passed away. So my father passing away, I know why he passed away. He passed away because he worked so hard during all his life. And I looked at myself and I thought, I'm doing the same. I'm exactly like my dad. I'm working really hard and not taking days off and not enjoying life. Maybe I should be doing something else. So I decided to take a 3-month sabbatical. And I thought, okay, where can I go for my sabbatical? Okay, I could go to the Tibet or India or I don't know, Africa, someplace to help people. But I thought, yeah, I always wanted to go to Japan. So I want to go to Japan. And everybody thought I was crazy. Like, okay, you're going to Japan, you're going to Tokyo to rest. Like Tokyo, 35 million people, and you're going to rest? It's crazy. You're not going to rest at all. So I was like, so I do. But then I did it, and I was very happy I did, because actually Tokyo is much more quiet than people have in their heads. Like people have the impression that Tokyo is very busy, but it's actually a sea of peace, except of course certain areas or certain streets where it's very busy because we live many people in this little chunk of earth. But still, you can find peace very well in Tokyo. Let me drink a little bit. So I did this 3-month sabbatical. I rented an apartment, and I was there 3 months, and it was very confronting because my father had just passed away. I was without my wife and my child. I was alone in a city I didn't know. I didn't speak the language, and it was confronting in the sense that you are, every day, of course, you go out and you see things and you discover a city that you don't know. But at the same time, you have 3 months, so you think, oh, I'll go another day. Today I will just stay in bed, or I will just stay inside drawing. And then I already started taking my drawing, which I had done all my life, but taking my drawing more serious, like thinking, okay, this is kind of therapy. And that would become the new constant in my life, drawing as a therapy and as a way of growing. Anyway, 3 months was over. I went back to Amsterdam, back to the craziness, back to the busyness, back to making money, the family, and so on. And I couldn't let go of Japan. So I was 4 years, I was in Amsterdam, but still trying to get back to Japan somehow. So what I did, I had money, but I couldn't spend it. I couldn't tell my wife, like, listen, I'm going back to Tokyo in another month or something. And so what I did was to search for clients in Japan and exchange services for tickets or services for an apartment. So that's what I did. 4 years long, I went back and forth, Tokyo, Amsterdam, and to make a logo or to set up something or design a magazine. And that allowed me to come back to Japan and explore more and get to know more people. And that was a new step in my life where Japan became kind of like the quiet place where I could come back to recharge. At the end of those 4 years, I decided that Holland was not my place anymore. I needed to move again. And of course, Japan was the place where I wanted to go. So after a lot of back and forth with my wife back then and my business, I decided to take a year to live in Japan for a year. And I came here for a year, and it was great. I mean, I was very convinced that this was what I wanted to do. I didn't miss anything from Amsterdam, other than my friends and my family, obviously my son. But I thought I will stay in Japan. So after 6 months, I decided I would stay, and that's what I did. I came here. I decided to make it a long, endless stay. At the same time, private changes, divorced my wife, um, stay here alone, got depression because of the burnout. I was still burnout. And while I was depressed, the only thing that saved me was drawing. Um, and I was drawing all the time. I had my friend Adrian Hogan. We went out to cafes and we were walking around and drawing the city, drawing people. And it was a huge school, if you want to call it like that, where I could learn to draw more and more. So after a while, doing nothing because I couldn't do design anymore. I didn't speak the language, so I was just drawing in the street and living from savings. Some friend of mine said, "Why don't you go to an agent that could take you as an illustrator?" And that's what I did. I became an illustrator from one day to the other. I thought, of course they wouldn't take me, but they did. And after a while, they started giving me work. So I started doing illustration in a professional way, and that eventually became my bread and butter. And I did more illustration, and I kept growing and growing as an illustrator, and didn't do design for well, I haven't done design for years now. I really don't miss it, and I thought making changes, you can't always look back. I can always use all the knowledge I have of typography and editorial and logos, but it doesn't mean that you lose it. But if you choose a new path, I think that it's good to really go and dive into it. So that's what I did. And then one day I went to a book presentation and I met the person that will be my wife, Yuka Okada. We were there together, and I was drawing her, of course, it was like a party, like a book presentation. And then she said, "I work in fashion," and I said, "Oh, I always wanted to draw for fashion." And she said, "Well, let's do a t-shirt collection together." We started working together, and that became a relationship. And after a while of living together and being together, um, I decided that maybe we should move out of Shinjuku, which is kind of the center of Tokyo. It's not really, but it's like a populated area of Tokyo. And we moved to this little area called Taitoku. And we found this building, which is like it was a rice shop for 100 years. And it was a beautiful building. We renovated it and we wanted to live there, but we thought, all this space, we don't need that much space. What can we do with it? So we had some ideas, like maybe co-working space, maybe something else. And at the end, we decided to make a creative residence. So it's like an artist residence, so people can come. And the same thing I did, 4 years or 6 years before, like coming here for a break. That's what we wanted to offer for creative people. So we created a thing called Almost Perfect, and it's been great. Like we had it now for 2 years, and it's been full until Corona. It's been a great success. And people come, they do, they take a break on their work, and they start a project. They work at the house, and then they do an exhibition in the gallery downstairs on the first floor. When they are done, it's fantastic to be able to be the creative director that I was at Lava, and I was at my own company, Good Inc. in Amsterdam. I am applying that knowledge or that talent, leading creatives that come to Almost Perfect. At the same time, I'm an illustrator, so I'm using all the drawing that I did on the streets when I was depressed with my friend Adrian. I am using it now every day as my job. And yeah, I think, is it time? Do I have to close? No, I can continue. um, let yeah. Do I have some time?
Well, you're doing okay, I think.
Yeah.
If everybody's so fine.
Yeah. Let me close. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So COVID hit, and you know, COVID was in a way, it was great for me because our child was just born. Tomo is a girl, and she was born just before Corona. And uh, because Corona, we couldn't have any people coming to Almost Perfect, so I had more time to concentrate on the child and on my illustration work. And I came up with this idea of doing the Homestay series, which was scenes of people in their homes, um, having, like, it was very contemplative. And I had seen so many people being at home depressed that I thought, how can you be depressed at your own home? So I wanted to show that being at home wasn't that bad. And I created this series of covers, fake covers, for a magazine, fake magazine called Homestayer. And that was a huge success. Like, it took off. I sold lots of prints. Many people picked it up in weblogs and in magazines. And that led me to decide on a style for my illustration, which I had been meandering different styles for a long while. And the Homestayer made me kind of fix my style. And just short after, Hans and Frank knocked on my door and they said, we want to sign you. And I was very, very flattered. I am working with them since a couple of months, and it's going really well. I'm very happy, and hopefully, Almost Perfect will be able to receive people soon when the borders in Japan get open again. And yeah, what I wanted to say, this is the end. Like, transit is about change, and change. You have to be open to change, and it doesn't mean that you have to change per se, but if you are always ready for change, everything that happens, COVID, um, breakups, your dad dies, that will make you resilient, and make you available to, find different ways. And there is always a way. I'm very optimistic. I think that this situation will help us all. It's helping me, and I hear more people that is being um, pushed into doing something different or into finding different ways of doing stuff. And I think it's gonna be a good thing for us all. So yeah, this is my story.
Well, thank you very much.
That was fast.
Yeah, you did good. You did good.
Yeah.
It's like 4 minutes, but perfect. We do have some questions, and I'll try to give the people who asked the question.
Okay.
We'll unmute them. So this was a question from, I don't know if I say it correct, but Yanku Barbarasa.
Yeah, Yanku.
Okay. So you're unmuted now, so you can ask your question. And
I am. Thank you. That's really good saying the name.
Yep.
Hi, Yanku.
Hi, Luis.
Friends?
Just wanted to ask quickly, how much time do you spend every day or every week on your own projects or practicing?
So, like, this is something like I keep on trying to be more disciplined, but I can't. So sometimes I will be like 4 days, nothing else. Like, I would just do, family, eating, sleeping, and work on my stuff. Other times I would just not do anything for myself in 3 weeks, maybe, because I'm busy with work and deadlines. So it's very irregular, and I can't really say. Like right now, I was drawing while we were waiting for this to start, and I was drawing the next print that will be available soon on my print shop, because I was waiting, so I had some time to do it. So it's very irregular. I can't really say. Yeah. But yeah, as much as you can.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your question as well. I've got another question, and that's from Evelyn. So I'll look up Evelyn now and unmute her.
I think I drew her.
Oh, sorry, Evelyn. Unmute.
Oh, no.
Go.
No. I made a drawing of Yanku. Can I show it?
Yes, sure. Oh, wow. Very nice, very nice.
I made a couple of drawings, just 4 people. I didn't have more time.
Okay, okay. Hey, Evelyn?
Yes, thank you for your talk, Luis. I was wondering how you would describe the styles you were meandering between before you found the homestayer style.
All over the place. All over the place. I was like, terrible, especially with the iPad, which you switch from watercolor to wash to ink, and I was doing everything. And I would recommend everyone to do everything and not be afraid, because finding a style is more about finding yourself. So if you don't try many things, you don't know where you are. And today I'm depressed and I feel more like doing something very detailed, and tomorrow I feel very wild and I want to do something more crayon like. And you should be able to keep the door open for that. And now I chose the homestayer because I feel comfortable doing it. It feels very much like me, and it has this looseness, and at the same time it's a bit tight, so it's a kind of in between. So yeah, I did everything, I can tell you that. And I deleted a lot. In my Instagram there is a lot, but in the portfolio I deleted because especially clients and Hans and Frank said you have to clean it up a little. It's all over the place. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess your comment about being open for change also goes for your drawing style.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Like this is your drawings is one. So what I said, like one day you feel shitty and you want to do something black and white and gray and sad, that's your drawing. And tomorrow you feel happy and then it's colorful. That's fine. So I think that you cannot separate them.
Okay, well, thank you, Evelyn, for your question. I've got another one from Zep de Bruin. And
that sounds very Dutch.
I think so. Well,
very Dutch.
I think he's. Yep.
Hi, Luis.
Hi, Seb.
Just a bit of a random question, but I saw you took a trip to Naoshima recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there,
great.
And I was wondering, what was your favorite site to behold, both in terms of art and also in terms of daily life there?
In terms of art, can I be very honest? Like in terms of art, I wasn't that impressed because I had seen everything all already in people's photos and people commenting, and James Durrell was very impressive, but I wasn't, I knew it already. What I was very touched, I was about the life there. It seemed like slow and nice. And I was really touched by the fact that we arrived and then we went to a cafe by chance. We went to this cafe and he said, "Oh, you are Luis." And I was like, what the hell? The guy knew my friend Adrian, who had been a few weeks before me. And he said, "Yeah, I saw you on the Instagram feed of my friend Adrian." And so we talked a little bit. And then in the evening, we went to a restaurant. And when we arrived, they were like, "Oh, yeah, you are Luis and Yuka." And we were like, what the hell? And it's because the guy in the cafe had told them. So, like it spread very quickly, the voice, the word that we were around. And I really liked that. It was really nice. I feel like welcome, like, okay, I'm in a completely new place, but people have heard of us. So it feels a bit, it feels very cozy. So yeah, it's nice. I really like that. And I think the most beautiful thing for me was in the ferry, where you go in the ferry and you see all this island popping out of the inland sea, and it's so beautiful. And I tried to capture it in drawings, but I didn't like the results so much. But it's so nice. It's like these little mountains coming out of the sea. That was beautiful.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Well, I've got another question, and that's nice because, That's from Creative Mornings Rotterdam, and well, we haven't yet, so I'll give you the unmute. I will unmute you.
Yeah,
Unmute me.
I know my first question was already answered with the styles, so I'm just going to add on to it. What do you think what do you think your style will develop into in the future? Just a curiosity, like.
Have no idea. To be honest, I don't even want to know. You know, it's like, yeah. You know, there is many people that is complaining about the uncertainty that the COVID is bringing in our lives. It's like a big problem, right? Like people is like, I'm so uncertain. I love it. It's nothing better than not knowing what's going to happen. And if I knew what's going to happen, then what's the point in going there? No, I really don't know. And I hope it's good. And I hope people liked it, but I have no clue.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Does it?
And if not, then keep going.
Yeah, keep going and keep drawing, you know, like draw every day. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to our next question, last question, and that's from Kenneth. Kenneth Jarowski, I'll unmute you now. Please.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Hi. Hello, Kenneth. Yeah,
hey, hello. Hello, Louis. Thanks. It's wonderful and to see you this morning on an otherwise gray morning. We are both old guys, as you call it. And I have to agree with you that this whole COVID thing has made me reopen and reinvestigate old talents and try new things. I began several decades ago as a graphic designer and illustrator, and I put it away for 20 plus years to become an interior architect. And COVID has gotten me back to pencil and paper and so forth. And I, like you, probably have been working analog, the old-fashioned way, the whole textural, feeling, touching, smelling way. But obviously have my eye towards moving towards digital, Procreate, iPad, so forth. You, I guess, probably work in both ways, or at some point made a transition from, and you work 100% digital. How was the transition? Because you didn't always work that way.
No.
Difficult or how was
it? I worked only. I had the sketch. I only work in these sketchbooks. For years. Only these guys. They're from Daler for years, and only with one specific pen.
Where are they from, by the way? Where are the sketch pads from? Just curious.
This is a Daler Romney.
Oh, yeah.
I had to order in New York, although they are British, but I couldn't buy them online anywhere else but in New York.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I was very attached to it and the size and everything. But then the new iPad came out, and I had an iPad, but I kind of didn't use it well, and I wasn't very happy with it.
Yeah.
But suddenly I bought the latest iPad, the iPad Pro, the small one, because it was the same size as the sketchbook. And, you know, and I thought, hey, wait a minute, this is the same size. I should try.
Yeah.
And then, like I don't know what happened. I kept trying, and it took me a while, I have to say, like months. To, you know, keep trying and trying different brushes and stuff. And now I've been doing iPad only maybe a year.
Okay.
Only. And even I have a Wacom. I don't use it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't use Photoshop. I just use Procreate.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy because, you know, I can work on the couch.
Yeah.
I can take it to a cafe, which in Tokyo is really good. You know, now with COVID, I don't do it that much anymore, but I'm very happy. And I don't know, it's very personal. I wrote a piece on Medium. If you search on medium.com and you search Mendo iPad, I wrote a piece about the transition. So maybe you would like to read that one.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what was the pen that you used traditionally through all of your analog days?
So it's called Parallel Pen. And I put it inside a very fancy fountain pen case, but in fact, it's a very cheap called parallel pen.
Okay,
I don't know if you
funny.
can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
I just, you know, it's like Frankensteinize it.
Yeah,
And I liked it because it's a pen especially made for calligraphy.
yeah.
So it has a very thick,
I
don't
see
know if
it.
you can see it.
Yeah, I see
Thick
it. Yeah.
and thin. So if you turn it, you will get a very thin line.
Wow, very cool.
And it gave me the freedom to create very expressive lines of thick to thin very quickly without changing pens.
Yeah.
And I like that. I am very much of the gesture and the quick.
Great. Yeah.
And that helped me really a lot. Yeah, I put it into a fancy case just because it holds nicer than. But if you search parallel pen, parallel like parallel lines, you will find it. There are different thicknesses, and they are great.
Super.
Fantastic.
Arigato.
Okay, we've got one question, and that's from somebody who can't show himself because he's in a public space or something. But I thought, well, I'll give him this question as well. And he's asking, well, how is it to be in a country where you don't fully understand, or where you don't speak the language, or you don't fully understand like 100%, and you probably don't speak the language. And,
even 50%.
And also 50. No, not even, not 50 or not.
Not even.
Not even. No. And but
maybe 40.
Not only like in personal life, but also in your creative life, or well, like imagine like with opdrachtgevers, clients. Yep.
Clients. Yeah. So okay. So first, living in a country that you don't speak the language is fantastic, because you live in a bubble, and you know, again, being my age, you have all these conversations that you've had sometimes. You don't want to have them again. So you don't need all those conversations, and you don't need to hear everything around you because it's not that interesting. So if I'm in a cafe and someone is talking about the girlfriend and the other guy is talking about the boss, I don't hear, I don't understand it. So for me, it's like a wallpaper music. So that's really, really nice. On the other hand, yeah, sometimes it's of course an obstacle, like, oh, you know, you need something and you don't know how to find it or something. But you know, Google Translate, it does a really good job, and with Google Translate you get really far. So I get very far with it. And all the clients, I just tell them to email, and then I Google Translate things, and if not, I can ask my wife, and it works really well. So it's good. You know, before I met my wife, I was alone, and I could do all the Japanese clients on my own, and it went really well. So of course it's not perfect, but people understand you. It's not about the language, it's about understanding each other.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I think that was the last question, but well, Luis, as you said, if somebody has questions or wants to ask you another thing, they can all do that by, what did you say, social
whatever, email, Instagram, @Luis Mendo.
So feel free, I think, to ask you.
Absolutely, no problem.
What we'd like to do now is, I thought we'll unmute everybody, and thought we'll then, we'll
revolution.
Thank you, or we'll make noise, or we'll do something to thank you for being here, because well, we really love to have you here, and thank you very much for your talk.
I want to thank you for organizing, and everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Javier-san. Everyone, keep drawing. Keep drawing. It's the only thing. All this talk is for nothing. Just draw.
Just the final words. Just draw.